if we count all of the days, which add up to 112, then, if I'm not mistaken, the total is going to be 16 weeks in America. 16 weeks, 112 days. We're gonna go right there, record a short, and then we continue this video. Hello guys, this is episode 7 of Days of America. As I've mentioned in a previous video, my current read, the current book that I'm reading, is Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince. And as I've said, I will try to read this with a critical mind, and I'll try to determine whether it is rightly so controversial or not. So, the title of chapter 14 is The Duty of a Prince in Relation to His Militia. At first, the title might not seem as relevant as it is after the reading of it. At this point, I think I can say fairly surely that the prince, as an idea, I think could be a model to the male figure. So far, everything that Machiavelli describes about the prince are all those kind of characteristics that a good man possesses. And chapter 14 is quite a strong and good example of these traits. Let me read a little bit from it. So that a prince unacquainted with the discipline of war, besides other infelicities to which he is exposed, cannot be beloved by, nor confident in his armies. He never therefore ought to relax his thoughts from the exercises of war, not so much as in time of peace, and indeed, then he should employ his thoughts more studiously therein than war itself. As to his bodily application or matter of action, besides that he is obliged to keep his armies in good discipline and exercise, he ought to inure himself to sports, and by hunting and hawking and such like recreation, accustom his body to hardship and hunger and thirst, and at the same time inform himself of the coasts and situation of the country, the bigness and elevation of the mountains, the largeness and avenues of the valleys, the extent of the plains, the nature of the rivers and fens, which is to be done with great curiosity. What do you say? Is it evil? Is encouraging people to pay attention, work on themselves, physically and mentally, and be sharp and on point every day, is that really evil? And this thought, I think, can be followed by what Peterson says, Jordan Peterson, and many other people as well, along with him, like Joe Rogan and Jocko Willink. To be able to be peaceful, you have to be dangerous, because harmlessness isn't peace. If you can't do harm, that doesn't mean that you're peaceful. You're just not capable of doing any harm to anyone, because you can only be good if behind the act of goodness lies a choice. And if you are harmless, you have no choice. But if you are dangerous, you can make the choice to be peaceful, to be kind. Then, later in the chapter, Machiavelli follows by saying, the arms of other people are commonly unfit and either too wide or too straight or too cumbersome. And this part refers to the fact that if you have a battle, if you have a war that you have to fight, the best way to approach it and the most fruitful way to approach it in the long run, your own arms, your own armor, and not to have mercenaries and auxiliary armies on your side. Of course, this doesn't apply to war necessarily in our case, just everyday life, but it can be understood quite easily why this is important. And why is this important today? Because, as I said in a previous video, in new contexts you have to adapt. And this adaptation sometimes goes with reminding yourself of certain principles that you have learned along the way. This is just the way people are. Simply, our memory is finite, and our remembering capabilities are finite as well. Which means that even though you know some things, certain times, as with this gimbal, you have to recalibrate, reassess your situation, and set a name. Reassess, recalibrate, go forth with power, go forth with strength. Be the warrior in the garden, not the gardener in the war. That was episode 9 of Days of America. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ooh. That was funny. I'll probably leave it in.